All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS Office Hours. It is a beautiful Tuesday here, September 28th of 2021. Thank you for tuning in, whether you are watching me live here or listening to this back as a recording, watching it back later, whatever works for you. Appreciate you being a part of the stream. We had an amazing stream yesterday here. We did our giveaways for week 3. So again, a big congratulations to everybody that won our giveaways and our 2 highest scores of the week. If you are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, I imagine most of you guys know what is going on here now, but I might as well plug it for everybody that doesn't. We are giving away prizes and just awesome goodies, free SaberSim, cash, whatever, all NFL season long for playing the Minimax, maxing the Minimax or the Pooch Punt on DraftKings and FanDuel, respectively, while wearing the SaberSim logo. You do those things, you send Andy at SaberSim.com an email with a screenshot showing that you did it, and you get an opportunity to play in some giveaways, to play the same contest for free the next week. If you're the highest scoring player in the contest, we'll give you some extra stuff. And if you take down that contest, you win first place. We're going to give you extra cash, free year or 6 months of SaberSim, depending, and some like custom SaberSim championship type stuff. So pretty cool deal overall. Again, did the giveaways yesterday, announced it in Slack. So if you're interested in who won, if you won, you would have already gotten an email, first of all. But if you're interested in who the winners were for the highest scores and the giveaway, that information is posted in Slack. Or you can just go back and watch yesterday's recording and watch it happen live. Watch me do my little wheel of names spinners, which is a little extra dramatic and exciting. So we had 2 hours of questions after that, which is amazing. Thank you guys again for everybody that was here yesterday, asking questions, making Monday's stream awesome. But we are right back at it today, getting to be an interesting part of the year for DFS players here. We've got the last week of regular season baseball. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm playing baseball pretty heavy this week, just as a bit of a send-off for another great baseball season. Baseball's historically been probably my best sport overall from a ROI standpoint. I know I talk about how ROI is a little unreliable because the big binks can sometimes just kind of affect that. And I think that's probably actually a little bit of what's happening here. I think from a finish position standpoint, NBA is another sport that I'm good at, but just haven't had the same kind of luck with the variance of getting those big binks. But a little sad to see MLB go, but we've got baseball coming around the corner. And of course, NFL season, hitting our stride. It is just Tuesday here. I think a long 2 days before the Thursday night showdown game. So NFL not at the forefront of my mind right at this moment. But hey, we will answer questions about whatever sports contests, slates that you guys have questions for. Excited to talk about this and break into these questions here today. I don't actually have a lot of questions in my queue. So we've got a couple. I think there were a few questions that trickled in through Slack. We'll hit those. Kenneth, I see you just popped your question here into YouTube chat. We'll get to that shortly. But if you guys have questions, ask them now. Get them in the queue. We'll go ahead and get to everything. Before I just jump in, last note, we are continuing to keep up the strategy session content here, going strong through the beginning into the middle of football season here. It's hard to believe. I guess we're already starting to get into maybe what might be considered the middle of football season, but we're going to keep the content going strong. So 2 strategy sessions again this week. On Thursday, late swap strategy in NFL DFS. How to use the late swap tool, why you might want to use it, a little bit of an introduction between the differences between quick swap and late swap, but also probably breaking into a little bit of strategy. What are maybe some typical strategies that you should be using just kind of at a baseline to add value to your DFS process, your NFL DFS process with late swapping? NFL is really easy because there's one big moment that you need to late swap, and that is at the end or towards the end of the early games and before the afternoon games kick off. But then also some maybe a little bit more advanced strategy tips of ways that you can add even further value to your late swap process. On Friday, how to use cheat sheets, core plays, other content, whatever you are researching, really even just research, whatever your individual process for NFL looks like, how to incorporate that into your process on SaberSim. I know there's a ton of NFL content out there. There's a ton of very good NFL content out there. If you are listening to podcasts, watching videos, reading articles, right? You get all this information, other plays, you want to get that into SaberSim. What are the best ways to do that? What's the way to do that? gain the most value and also do it in the safest way. So you're not really maybe necessarily explicitly disagreeing with SaberSim or going against the model, but you're incorporating what you have learned from other strong content that you are consuming into your process on Sundays. So I believe that one will be Friday. I am going to be out on Friday. I've got my last... Well, actually, no, not. Well, I've got a wedding to go to. So I'll be out this weekend. I'm hopefully trying to get back quickly on Sunday afternoon so I can at least get into the Sunday afternoon slate. I'm probably going to be the only guy there thinking about how I'm going to get my DFS lineups in. But anyway, so I won't be here on Friday. I believe that strategy session will probably end up being hosted by Andy and Max. But that's the plan as of right now. Anyway. 5 minutes of housekeeping here. Thank you for bearing with me through that. And we can go ahead and start getting into the questions. I see we've had a bunch of other people now trickle into the stream. So welcome, everybody. If you just missed the first 5 minutes, main takeaway here is that I've only got a couple questions today. So if you've got a question, you got something you want me to talk about, fire it away early because we are going to be through this queue of questions rather quickly here. So, let's go ahead here. I do, just in case people missed these questions in Slack. I know this one was answered here, but I want to actually start with this question from Underrated 33. Let's switch over to SaberSim and then turn on the dark mode so that I'm not burning everybody's eyes out. Boom. And just for the sake of it, let's switch over to the main slate. Cool. We'll default to baseball here today since that's probably the slate that we're looking at. But first question here, what percentage of bankroll would you recommend for showdowns? Would you recommend the standard 5% or is that too high? And Max chimed in and said 5% is insane for showdowns, more like 1%. And I think that's probably the safest approach, right? These are much higher variance. You're not going to have a lot of in-between results when you play NFL showdowns. In other words, probably not going to be a lot of weeks where you are breaking even, maybe. I guess let me put it this way. There's more variance because you're playing one game, right? You can be very wrong about your approach to the game. If you didn't have any Zeke Elliott captain last night, you were just completely sunk, right? Like it wasn't even close. It was the slate's over. Maybe there were some Dalton Schultz viable lineups at captain, but like there were basically two ways to go. And if you didn't have those two guys, you were just sunk. You were going to lose everything. And on a main slate, that's not really going to happen as much like that unless you're playing in a super risky strategy anyway. But if you're playing 20 lineups in a main slate, and maybe you have 5 different quarterbacks and 8 different running backs and 24 different wide receivers or something like that, right? Even if you are kind of wrong or you have a bad week, you're going to recoup a lot of that back. You're spread out. You're not going to be as risky. But on showdowns, you can very easily just lose it all. And that's actually going to happen most of the time, right? On showdowns, it's just going to be like, it's almost like this for main slates too, but especially on showdowns, it's like lose, win. And really win. So I think that 1% is probably a very safe recommendation from Max. Again, it depends a little bit on the size of your bankroll. I think I end up flirting with, I would probably be a little closer to 2 to 3% on my average showdown investment. My bankroll management strategy on showdowns in particular probably stands to be improved a little bit with that. But I don't know. Anyway, I would say overall, it makes sense to cut down your bankroll in investment on showdowns because they're higher variance. So there was a comment here from the fact that we had Euro Tour golf projections, and I am waiting to hear back from the rest of the SaberSim team on that. I believe this is the first time I've seen Euro Tour projections, which actually makes me feel like maybe those are something's up there. So I will confirm with everybody if we actually are now projecting Euro Tour, which would be pretty cool. I think it's the first time we'd be doing that. But I feel like maybe that was projected by mistake. So I will follow up here with everybody on that. And then we get to this question here. Again, another one from Underrated. And I don't know, Underrated 33, if you are watching me here, I have a question here. So maybe you can kind of help fill me in. But the question says, I know in the contest selection strategy, we're looking for 1,000 effective entrants and over, but does contest size also factor into our bankroll strategy? And what I guess I'm interpreting from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically saying like, if you are playing contests above or below a certain size, does it make sense to change the way you are investing your bankroll? I actually think, if I'm interpreting that correctly, I think this is actually a pretty sharp question overall. And I would say maybe not so much from the standpoint of contest size, but from the standpoint of effective entrance, I think it does make sense to think about this. And it's another way. There were questions yesterday, a lot of questions about the effective entrance thing where people said, I'm playing college football, or I'm playing esports, or I'm playing these other smaller sport types where, there are not enough contests to play, or I'm still playing baseball at this point of the season. And I like playing baseball, and there's just not a lot of good baseball contests left out there. Like, what should I do? I think there is merit to scaling your investment of Bankroll to the value of the contest you can get. So if there are not good contests out there and you have to play contests that are 300, 500, 700 effective entrants instead of 1,000, it probably actually does then make sense to compensate for that by investing less Bankroll, right? You're playing against sharper opponents, still get the opportunity to play, but scale back your action in line with in line with the fact that the contests are harder to play. Contest size overall, I don't think there's a huge component here. I mean, effective entrance is ultimately just like directly, it's just a factor of the contest size. So, I mean, I think from that standpoint, I would consider it. If you're playing below 1,000 effective entrants, I think it makes sense to maybe cap some of your investment. 5% is definitely, we say it in all those contest selection videos, but that 5% Bankroll investment is definitely a maximum. So it is definitely a max, right? Not a min, not the right amount, but the maximum. So if you want to play 3% because you're playing contests with less effective entrants, then do it. I don't think from there, if the contest gets bigger, there's necessarily any reason to scale up or scale down your investment because of the contest size you're playing. Again, I know it's easy to look at the 300,000 entry play action, for example, and say, how am I ever going to win that? And again, it's important to note that a contest is profitable regardless of whether the fact that you win, right? That's kind of the thing is how am I going to beat out 30,000 entrants? Well, that's not necessarily the only goal, right? It is the idea that there's so much dead money at the bottom of that. There are so many bad lineups made by bad players that contest becomes profitable. So underrated. I see you are typing here. I'll wait to see your follow-up. I'm going to hit some of these follow-up questions here that came in YouTube chat. Kenneth said, does the effective entrance guide matter if I'm playing in contests under $3? Yes, but the under $3 line is another positive thing going for you. In other words, it's another thing that makes the contest soft and easier. So excuse me, it's just another factor. Like, I think in the original contest selection video that Andy and I put out a few weeks ago, Andy actually said for NFL, focus on 1,000 or more effective entrants under $3 and 2,000 or more effective entrants over $3, because you need more effective entrants for the contest to be equivalently soft when you start having those sharper players in the pool. That's, again, kind of just a guideline. But yes, overall, I would still focus on the effective entrants idea, right? Because there are a lot of low stakes players that are pretty sharp. There are a lot of low stakes pros even that are still playing under $3 and still have access under $3. So you still want to focus on playing the softest contest possible, 1,000 effective entrants or greater. Let's see. So I did get some follow-up here from underrated as well. So let's take a look. Would a contest with 400,000 people or one with 20,000 people that both have 1,000 effective entrants be equal as far as our bankroll? I mean, more players mean more bad players, but also makes it harder to bonk. Hope that makes my question clearer. Yeah, it does. So again, I think this is similar to a question we had yesterday. So I'm just going to pull up this spreadsheet that I talked about yesterday, because I think this helps show it a little clearer. So we had a very similar question yesterday from GA33, who was basically like, I hear what you're saying in the effective entrance argument, but I don't know if I'm totally on board with the idea that it's easier to win a contest that is that much bigger. So this is kind of the spreadsheet I made. And again, for those of you that did watch yesterday, I'm not going to go into as much detail here, but I think this makes it pretty clear of why the effective entrance contest is easier. The higher effective entrance contest is still a more profitable contest. So we're talking about the first down versus the triple option, right? This is a $1.20 max. This is a $3.03 max. This has almost 300,000 entries. This has 15,000 entries. And the assumptions are that there are 1,000 more people more skilled than you playing both of these contests, and everybody that's playing the contest is maxing it out. So this is the argument behind the effective entrance. In the first down, the people that are better than you are accounting for 20,000 lineups of the pool, which is only 6.73% of the entries. In the triple option, they are accounting for 3,000 entries, making up 20% of the entire entries in the contest, which means that this contest, and then in the actual example from yesterday, GA33 mentioned that the Bink score was higher in the first down versus the triple option. And basically the idea is that this difference between the percent of entries made by skilled players is so much significantly less in the more effective entrance contest that it outweighs the fact that the raw Bink score is just higher in the contest that has more entries, which is pretty much always going to be the case. So that is the idea here. So kind of coming back to this question, would a contest with 400,000 people or one with 20,000 people that both have 1,000 effective? Okay. So I actually maybe misread this question here because what's being constant here is 1,000 effective entrants. So funny enough, I actually had another user ask me this almost exact same question via DM earlier today. And there were 4 contests that all had the exact same number of effective entrants. And then there was a decision of what is the easiest contest to play. And in this case, again, at this point, if the effective entrants are constant, you just start looking at other things. The first question I would ask is one of these under $3 and one of them is over? Because the one that's under $3 is going to be easier to win. The other question then I would ask is the other thing I would then start to look at the payout structure. Is there one contest that has a flatter payout structure with 10% or less going to first, 20% plus getting paid out in total, maybe less than 20 to 30% in the top 10, maybe a 2x min cash, right? We start looking at payout structure kinds of things. We can look at if those are also equal. So if they're both above or below $3, they both have very equal payout structures. They have the same number of effective entrants, right? Then taking this thought experiment a little bit further, the next thing I would start looking at is wait, I lost my train of thought. Wait, I don't remember what I was going to say. I guess really at that point, if everything else is equal, it is probably easier to win the smaller contest. Everything else being equal. But only at that point. And even then, it's maybe not necessarily the case. For example, if this 400,000 person contest is $4 or something, and the 20,000 person contest is $200, just for example, right? That $4 contest is going to attract way softer of competition, even if the effective entrants are the same. It just is, because the lower stakes are just going to be a little easier. So there's still some determinations to be made there. But it's really like, ultimately at the end of the day, it's like effective entrance is probably my number one consideration, and then under $3, and then probably payout structure. These things are close. Those are probably like the big 3. If you hold all 3 of those things constant, then it gets kind of hard to say what the best contest is. And again, it is not really a huge, I think Andy even mentioned here in the contest selection video that, this doesn't need to be a huge time sink for you. It should take 10 minutes and you should do your best to get the best contest possible, but you don't need to go overboard here necessarily, right? Just get the best contest you can. No need to spend hours breaking down every single thing. Don said 2x times the entry fee at the bottom of the payouts. Yeah, the min cash line, 2x is nice. Can't always get it, but it's nice. Underrated said Bink. Sorry, I liked Bonk. I kind of like bonking the contest. So anyway, cool. Let's see. Let's jump back to the first question we got here at the start. So Kenneth said, is there a way to create 2 separate 10 lineup builds and enter them into 120 max or 275 lineup builds into 150 max contests? No, unfortunately, at the moment there isn't. And I have heard from users that this would be useful. This is something that is on our radar, along with many other future improvements that we hope to make to the entry editor. This is, of course, the answer is no, assuming you're trying to do this with the entry editor. So you're building 10 lineups. The way I've heard most people explain to me why they want to do this is maybe they're doing something like they're doing a 10 lineup build where they're fading sale, and then they're doing a 10 lineup build where they're not. And moving around projections and exposures in each different build to kind of account for that difference. And I get that. I get that. That makes sense to me from a process standpoint. You can't do that right now at the moment in the entry editor. You can do it pretty easily with the CSVs. So you could build your 10 lineups, download your CSV from DraftKings, load the 10 lineups in, then build your other 10 lineups and load those in. I know you get away from the entry editor, a little more tedious, getting your hands dirty back in the CSV files, which isn't that much fun. But if it is helpful for you or an important part of your process, that's the easiest way to do it at the moment. But yes, it is one of our thoughts, or it's on our radar at the very least for the entry editor to allow you to combine entries from different builds into the same contest, or combine lineups from different builds and enter them into the same contest. The other very common request as well is to allow more control over a unique fill so that the highest Saber score lineups end up in the highest dollar amount contests, right? That comes up all the time. I'm in the $3, $1 quarter jukebox and the dime 20 maxes. I'm playing 80 lineups, and I don't want my highest Saber score lineup in the dime, right? Very obvious reasoning for that, and very common question. That's another thing on our radar. But cool. Ryan said, thanks for answering the Euro question, Jordan. Thought it looked strange, but it does show the range of outcomes for all the players on the slate, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they look like legitimate questions. I'll follow up here. My concern is that I'm not necessarily positive that we have like the right course in there. I could very easily see that we're like simulating the Euro slate on the PGA Tour course, but we'll see. We'll figure that out for everybody. Desmond said, first year using SaberSim. SaberSim did very well for me in baseball, but SaberSim so far has been underwhelming in football. Do the simulations get better as the season goes along, or is SaberSim just better at baseball? No, SaberSim is not better at baseball. It's just a very small sample size here. You know, since you are familiar with baseball, right? This is only week 3. We just finished week 3. We're going into week 4. So if this was a week of baseball, it would be Wednesday, right? We would have played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sure there have been plenty of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday sections of your baseball season where you did poorly. So I would say be patient. Make sure you are using strong bankroll management and contest selection principles. And if you are unsure what those are, please, if I can urge you to watch one video on our YouTube channel, one and only one, it's this one. Strategy sessions on our YouTube channel. And then there's a ton of NFL content, so watch it all. But if you could only have time for one, watch this one, how to double your NFL DFS ROI in 15 minutes. Because contest selection and bankroll management in NFL is huge. One, because you've only got 18 or 20 playable slates to work with, right? You're very exposed to variance. But 2, because there's so many soft players, like there's so many soft contests, there's so many bad NFL DFS players that you need to capitalize on your opportunity to get in the contests where you are up against them. And this video walks through how to do that and how to get in those contests. And it's really important here for that. So, but good question. Zachary said, this looks like a super cool product. Do you have a link for this where it shows what you get, prices, etc.? Yes, we do. SaberSim.com. SaberSim.com. We'll break it all down for you. We do have a free 7-day trial, no strings attached. You can sign up, you can use it. Full capacity, every feature for 7 days. And if you hate it, hopefully you don't. But if you don't like it, you can cancel. No strings attached, right? We won't charge you nothing. So this breaks down on our site. We break down pricing. We break down the features of the optimizer, everything that is cool here. I'll give you our quick elevator pitch. The reason SaberSim is unique, right? At least in the DFS space, is that we simulate every game play by play. That's an important component here, thousands of times, and that ends up fueling everything in our product. That fuels our projections. When we say Chris Sale has a certain projection tonight, that is actually the average of a complete range of outcomes across all of our simulations. We use this data directly when we build your lineups, so you don't have to predict or try to guess what ceilings and floors actually look like. We know what they look like, and we know how often players get there, but also correlations, right? You don't have to. Let's switch over to NFL. You know, if you're familiar with NFL, you know that maybe you want to be stacking your QB with pass catchers and maybe other players from the other game, but every team is different. Some running backs catch passes, some running backs don't. Some tight ends are involved in the offense, some aren't. We quantify exactly how correlated every player is to other players on their team and the opposing teams, and we know exactly how much to weight this correlation factor when we build your lineups. So you can build lineups on SaberSim here by just setting exactly what your contest is. So you say, maybe I'm playing the quarter jukebox. It's a 20 max contest that has over 50,000 entrants, and you can just build lineups. We'll give this just a second to build. So it's going to analyze and look at all the simulations. It's going to build a big pool of 500 lineups and give you the best 20. And then what you can do is you can sort these lineups and filter and do all this fun stuff here at the end without having to build any additional lineups. But we'll give this just a second to build because I really want to show you how we build lineups that have good stacks and are correlated. And I mean, I'm only scratching the surface here, but we're building lineups that have good stacks, that are correlated, that have upside without having to have built a single rule. You saw me, right? I switched to NFL. We had week 4, and I just started building lineups. And didn't set a single rule, right? On a traditional optimizer, you're going to have to spend hours setting all these rules. You're going to have to set up the stacking rules for each individual team, right? You're going to have to do all kinds of stuff. So we do have to change 2 projections because of the DraftKings regulations, but now we can see our stacks and we can look at the stack types. So we're getting like QB plus 1, QB plus 2, QB plus 1, some run backs here, right? We're getting a bunch of lineups that look really nice. That makes sense, right? Not a single rule here. And all of a sudden we have a Josh Allen Bill stack with a Houston run back. Beautiful looking lineup. Maybe this is too much Sony Michel. You can say, I only want 50% Sony Michel, and we'll just immediately adjust it for you. So it's pretty awesome. I know I'm biased here, but it's pretty amazing when you realize how much power is behind this tool. So Zachary said, currently been using RotoWire, have no idea what I'm doing. This looks way better. Yeah, I think, for more beginner players and more advanced players alike, this tool SaberSim is going to be a way more powerful tool for building successful GPP lineups or cash lineups, but mostly GPP. So again, free 7-day trial, Zachary. We'd be happy to have you. So get signed up, come check us out. If you sign up today, you'll get to play the Thursday night slate if you want to. You get a Sunday main slate, mix in some baseball in there. So, and then you said, and you have chat support for this, but what about sessions for teaching aside from just YouTube videos, like one-on-one sessions? We don't have any one-on-one coaching directly at the moment, but I will sit here and have a back and forth with you for as long as you need for any questions you have. I'm sure a lot of our regular viewers on the stream here know this, right? And have had a moment where, we're going back and forth and talking through. My goal on these streams, I do these every Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, is to make sure everybody gets their questions answered. So if you have a question and then 6 follow-up questions after it, I will stay with you and we will keep talking through it until you feel like you get your question answered. So James here is representing. So appreciate it, James. But anyway, let's keep it rolling, guys. Pop said, hey, Jordan, is there a way to have a 30-person player pool and not to have to X out every other single player? It's just time consuming. Sorry if I missed this before. Yes, there is. So if you want to run a tight player pool, the easiest thing to do is to instead, rather than uncheck every player that you don't want, to check in the players that you do. So you can start by clicking this, turn every player off. Every single player is now removed from the pool, and you can go in and just add the players that you want. Obviously, you need to give yourself enough players in the pool to work with here, but that's the easiest way to do that. You can do this by position as well. So, that thing was a little sticky on me here, but let's say maybe you're only specific about your QB pool. You're fine having every other player in the pool, but for your QB player pool, you only want a couple guys in there. So I actually think I was talking to somebody, maybe Safety Dance. Somebody said they did this where they let SaberSim make a lot of the decisions for them, but they're very specific about the player pool. So maybe you're playing these guys, right? I don't know, whatever your player pool is. So now we'll build lineups. Every other QB is removed. We won't have any of these other QBs in there, but you'll have these 5 guys and the rest of the player pool is active. So that's the easiest way to do that. This thing does seem a little sticky to me, so I'll take a look at that. But it should work if you give it a couple clicks. So Andrew said, what percentage of max lineups are sharps cashing on? Shouldn't there be some correlation there with max effective entrants being that only 20 to 25% of lineups cash? So on average, if they submit 150 lineups, what percentage do they typically cash on and what percentage are effectively duds? I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there is some data somewhere that you could dig up. Honestly, you could go pull down a CSV of a contest that ran and just see, there's probably some Excel spreadsheet analysis that you could do here if you're interested. I would say sharps probably just are completely unconcerned with whether they are cashing or not. Sharps, or even just like pros or like some of the top players, right? Especially in the contests, in the payout structures that are in the big contests on any given night, right? Let's pull up DraftKings and look at the bat flip for tonight, right? Nobody cares nobody playing the bat flip cares if they cash. And if they do, they're not playing the right contest. So, this is NFL. Let's look at baseball for tonight. Bat flip, 50K to first. This is kind of like the big contest, right? So this contest pays 25% to first, 50% to the 48% to the top 10, has a 1.67 min cash. Like everybody's playing for first or last in this contest. Andrew, that's definitely one of those questions that I feel like there's something behind that. So, again, I let me know if there's kind of like a deeper question that you're looking for there. I don't know the data on like how often pros are cashing. They are, probably cashing more than people that aren't as good, but I don't think they're also very concerned with how much they're cashing, or min cashing in particular compared to a top equity finish. So. All right. Kenneth said, how exactly can I use a core in my lineup build in MLB? So the easiest way to do that is to do it in step 3 as opposed to step 1. So the reason why is because you can limit your player pool in step 1 by excluding certain players from your pool, but you're going to just have a very profound effect on SaberSim, right? That I think is safer and higher value and higher expected value to do in step 3. So let's say you have done your own research and you feel like you have a set of core plays that you want to approach the slate with. How I would recommend going about doing this is building your lineups for your default settings for the contest, right? So you're 20 max, maybe you are, this kind of contest, right? This is the quarter jukebox or something like that. And again, build your lineups. So you're building your 20. And we are going to dial in exposures around the core that we want here. So I think it is best to think about your cores across all sports, whether you're talking about NFL or you're talking about baseball, basketball, maybe even a little bit, but less so because the variance is just lower. But your core should be typically established around the players that have lower variance. So in baseball, the highest variance positions are hitters. The lower variance positions are pitchers. So I think it is best probably to build a core around pitchers instead of hitters. But sorry, I got distracted here. I'm watching the chat here a little bit too. But it's better to build your core around your pitchers, right? So let's say you've done your research and your individual core is you're going to probably have to have a mix of some value and some pay up guys, but maybe your core is these 4 guys could work, right? So the easiest thing to do here in this particular case is, let's say it's really these top 4 guys, would be to set a max exposure of 0 on the other pitchers that are showing up, right? And you may have to do this for a bit. We're going to filter in some other players. Again, the reason I like to do this here on step 3 is because we're getting an opportunity to at least see what else the builder is giving you, right? Let's go back here for a second and just look at this again. Let's say your core instead was no Chris Sale, right? So it was maybe Logan Webb, Walker Buehler, Brandon Woodruff, and Brady Singer. Those were your guys. Those were your 4, right? I think it's useful to at least see this and at least get an opportunity to say, wait a minute, am I missing something here, right? I wasn't going to play Chris Sale tonight. Maybe you're looking, he's at Baltimore, Camden Yards, good hitting park. Chris Sale, people have gotten to Sale a little bit this season. I don't want to play him. This at least gives you an opportunity to think, okay, I want a little bit of Sale now. But say you don't. You could still go in here and just start Xing these out, right? You get now getting a ton more guys, but you can again kind of continue to narrow down your pool and tighten this up, and you're setting max exposures. I think that was one of our guys in our core, but maybe you just say it's this top 4 guys, right? You're setting max exposures and you're dialing this in, and this can take a bit, but just be patient. Get this done here faster than it is going to be with most other tools out there. So let's narrow this in, and you can see as we're going here, the ownership on our top guys, or the exposure on our top guys in our core, is going up little by little, and we've established a core. So this is like our core. So we did our research. We found our 4 pitchers we liked. The beauty here is that you weren't really responsible for putting the rest of the pieces of the lineup together. You had your 4 pitchers, and now that the lineups that you're getting here are strong lineups that the builder otherwise already liked, right? But you could also come in here and then start to do that with your stacks, maybe, right? Maybe you have some core stacks that you're interested in playing. And now you want to take a little bit of a softer touch here, because even if you have like your big core stacks that you want to use, you need to still fill them in with other stacks. But maybe the starting point here is that we're only going to play 5 stacks. So let's remove the 4 stack types. And now one thing we could do is we could say that we've let's keep removing the 4 stack types. I'm just doing this to make this easier. Maybe we have also a core that we want to use for our 5 stacks. And our core is these guys, maybe. I don't know. Just for example, Boston, Colorado, and LA 5 stacks. So we can just start removing other teams from this until we get this dialed in. So there we go. So now this is a very concentrated way of playing, right? To be like, relatively speaking. Sometimes, I guess the other thing before I say that you may want to note here is that we may sometimes need to go back in and like re-tighten back up. There's a little bit of an iterative process that needs to take place here, where you're kind of like going here and you're going back here. Okay, so now we all look good. Oh, maybe not. Now we remove this, right? Back and forth a little bit, but not too big of a deal until we're getting everything tightened up. But we're feeling good now. We got everything pretty much where we want it for the most part. I'm not going to keep going here. You guys get the idea. But the point I was trying to make here is that this is, if you were to do this here on your pitchers and your hitters and everything, you're going to have a very condensed lineup pool, right? If we're wrong about the pitchers or we're wrong about the stacks, we're going to have a big losing night. So I would pick your spots here and pick your lower variance spots as much as possible. If you want to play with kind of a core and you're maybe doing some other research, or I know like, especially if you're out like listening to podcasts or tout shows or anything like that, you're going to get a lot of this kind of content. And this is the kind of thing that we're exactly talking about here on Friday's strategy session. How do you go about doing that? Rona makes a really good point here. Rona 4489. It's faster to just set the min exposures for the pitchers and stacks you want, etc. It probably is. So what we're referring to here is to just say, let's say you want a roughly even exposure to the top, to your core pitchers, right? So you set 25, 25. Who are the other guys? 25. And was it Wheeler? I don't even remember who it was. Singer, right? That's probably faster. Actually, I guess you could do 50, really, if you wanted like a totally even, because you're playing 2 pitchers. So you could do something like this. The main thing is that, like, from my perspective, when I do this particular thing, I don't want to be as controlled with the min exposures necessarily. Like, if I were playing this, for example, I wouldn't necessarily want an even 50, 50, 50, 50 on all of these guys. I might more want only those 4 guys in the lineups, but use whatever exposure that the builder thinks makes sense there. But yes, you can very easily go in and set the min exposures too. That is probably faster if you know what those guys are already. But good question. Okay, so Desmond said, last question, I may have missed it, but what am I looking at as far as payout structure? If you have covered, forgive me and point me where to look. No, I'm happy to answer it. So I would say there are a few things to look at. One is I like to focus on contests that are about 10% or less to first place, right? There's a lot of variance that comes into play between finishing in the top 1% or top 0.1% versus finishing first. So you don't want an overly heavy first place that leaves you up to a bunch of variance. But then secondarily, I like to typically say that top 10 is 20%-ish or less. I know Samuel, who's in here pretty often, has also a pretty good way of looking at it, where you would say that your first place is 10% or less, and your 10th place is no less than 10% of first place. That's another good way of looking at it and doing a quick eye test. There is Roto Grinders has a pretty good extension here for both Fire. I think they have it for Edge now too. Firefox, Chrome, and Edge that will actually kind of show you the stats of any contest that you are looking at. Tiger Woods NFTs. They'll show you the stats of the contest that you're looking at, and we'll break it down for you, which I think is really helpful. So this one, for example, right, this is 10% to first. That's pretty good. Top 10 is 23.33%. That's fine. I think really top 10% can really even go as high as 30% before I think it starts to be really top heavy. And then a few other things that are useful to look at. That again, this extension breaks it all down. Min cash, 2x is ideal, right? Get a little bit extra when you min cash so that you're winning back some of your winnings. You want the contest to pay out at least about a fifth of the pool. A quarter is even better, but at least 20%. And then your margin is going to be your rake. At the low stakes, this is always going to be just under about 16%, which is a lot. It sucks. Rake has gone way up. 16% is a big rake. But when you can find opportunities to bring this down, either just from contests that are raked a little lower or overlay or just don't fill, which happens at least occasionally, that's another good thing to look for. But definitely recommend checking out this extension. I think it makes it a lot easier, but you can do this pretty quickly in your head too as well. The total prize pool here is $30K. So relatively quickly, right? $3,000 is 10%. Pretty good. You can do, again, this is why I like Samuel's rule here, because you can do 150 divided by 3,000 pretty quickly and see that this is 5%, right? Which isn't necessarily great. It's not the flattest payout structure, but it's pretty flat. You'll see there are contests like, look at the Millie Maker. Is the Millie Maker up for next week? Look at this one. Oh, the Thursday night Millie Maker will work. 1 million to first and 10,000 to 10th. So 1%, right? Not great. This is like a perfect example of a terrible contest. 40% to first place, 50% to the top 10, 1.67 min cash. Oof, not good. So those are the things to look at. And again, I think payout structure is important, but it would be third on my list. Not to say I guess partly the reason that it's third is because the contests that actually grade out very well from the standpoint of effective entrance and all the contests under $3 typically already have a good payout structure. But even if that wasn't true, I would still say within some level of reason that I would still prioritize these two things first to get the softest competition possible. But I don't know. We're not actually forced to make those decisions very often. So it's not something that I think about as much. Almost everything you can find here under $3 is just going to be great. The play action, right? Not a 2x min cash, but instead it's paying out almost 30%, 28% of the field. First is 6.25. Top 10's less than 20. Great contest, right? For a showdown. We can check the main slate. Let's just pick someone. Pull something out of that. The Minimax, the one that we always tell people to play in our contest, right? Same deal. 10% to first, 27% to top 10. That's quite a bit. Not too bad, though. But 2x min cash pays out 20% of the field. Good contest. So, good question. Oh, okay. So a little bit of follow-up here. Andrew said, I get what you're saying. Thanks for the response. If we're going on the assumption that there are 1,000 players better than me and they max their entries, if 20% of their lineups are cashing, then those 1,000 better players would effectively chew up all of the payouts. Yeah, so like getting back to this, the further you go into this, the more these assumptions are going to need a little bit of extra help, because there's going to be questions of like, how often do you beat a player that is more skilled than you? How often do you lose to a player less skilled than you? I actually think the edge there on a single slate is probably like pretty small. Like it's probably just a couple percentage points in either direction. But this is using some really like stiff assumptions just to get the point across. So, but cool. All right. That's all I see for questions here. Been a fun stream here today. Had an opportunity to hammer home some more contest selection stuff, which is great. Always super important. Talk a little bit of core plays in baseball, which is very relevant for this week, especially, looking ahead to Friday, our strategy session on Friday. Got to do a little bit of my elevator pitch here for SaberSim. So if Zachary is hanging around here, still, thanks for tuning into the stream today and hope to see you on a trial here soon. Welcome ahead of time. I think that is going to about do it for today's stream. So we will be back here again tomorrow, Wednesday, for another office hours. On Thursday, I mentioned we will be doing strategy session for late swap, and Friday, another strategy session for using core plays and cheat sheets and content and things like that on SaberSim for football. I'll let you know if those schedules change. I know it's been a little bit in flux the last couple of weeks or the first few weeks of the season where things have been moving around a little bit. Thank you for being patient with us as we kind of, tweak our content schedule around. But I'll let you know tomorrow if anything has changed there. Enjoy the Tuesday night slate for baseball tonight if you're playing. 13-game slate, probably this slate and like Friday. Tuesday and Fridays are always pretty good MLB slates. These are probably like two of the last really big MLB slates of the year, so enjoy them. Obviously, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, we have some slates, but the Tuesday and Friday ones are always kind of the big ones. So enjoy the slate tonight, though. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow, and we'll be looking ahead to football back here on Thursday. See some appreciations in the chat. So again, thank you guys all for tuning in and asking questions and being a part of this. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.